Hi friends, it's Sherri here. Welcome to today's practice. We're going to be doing about an hour class, basic restorative class. So this is really good for all levels and especially good if you are new to restorative yoga. If you are brand new to restorative yoga, I encourage you to check out my 10-minute video explaining what restorative yoga is, and I also review some of the commonly used props and substitutes that we use in practice today. So for today's class, we're going to need a bolster, and you can use a couch cushion if you don't have a bolster. You'll need 2 blankets, 2 blocks, or heavy books can substitute as well. And then finally, a benefit would be having a strap to use for some stretches. You could use a belt, a scarf, a sock. Any of those items would work equally well if you don't happen to have a strap handy. So a couple things to just keep note of, which is good for restorative yoga in general, is about finding comfort and relaxation in the poses. We don't look for a lot of sensation or even stretch. On a scale of 1 to 10, we're looking at about a 3. So it's not about pushing yourself, it's about finding comfort so that we can engage our parasympathetic nervous system, bring some healing, relaxation, and calm to our bodies and minds. So you might do a pose in a way that looks totally different than how I'm doing it, and that's perfectly fine and the way it's supposed to be. So what I do is a starting point, but please adjust to find your own comfort level. And if you need to come out of a pose early, going into a child's pose, simply lying on your back or coming to an easy seat is a great option to come to while we move on to the next sequence. And alternatively, if you feel called to stay in a pose longer than what I'm holding, pause the video, stay in the pose as long as you like. You can hold restorative poses for up to 20 minutes. So it's all about developing your own practice and your own intuition. So let's go ahead and get started with just a few grounding breaths before we move into our stretches and then into our restorative practice. So come to an easy seat and just notice how you're feeling when you come to the mat today. Is your mind calm? Mine usually isn't at the start of practice. Or is it turbulent, somewhere in between? Don't worry about changing it. Just notice it. See where there's any tension in your body. Are you hunching over like this? Are you closing off your chest cavity and your breath? Just notice where you are and think to yourself what you might want to focus on releasing in today's class. Make it simple. One word, one focus. You don't have to try to fix it all. And feel free to close down your eyes and just breathe in deep from your low belly, your diaphragm. Inhale and exhale. Two more times. Inhale. Exhale. Last one. Exhale. This practice is for you, and whatever brought you to need to do this practice, honor that and then let it go. If it's stress or a situation, just everything's always waiting for us when we come back. We can step away from it. It's okay. We don't have to carry the load any further. So this time's for you, all for you. Okay, let's start with some shoulder stretches. Shoulders and neck, common place to keep tension. And so we're just going to loosen up a bit. So you can use your strap, you can use your scarf, your sock. And what you're going to want to do is just bring it so that your hands are about shoulder width apart and you're able to just hold the strap tight like that. So we're going to come to an inhale and lift our arms up. keeping our arms straight and keeping that loose, not so tight tension in the straps. So inhale. Exhale, come down. Inhale. Exhale, come down. And you may hear some pops and creaks. My joints are always talkative, totally normal. Last one, inhale. And exhale down. Next, we're going to inhale up. And then exhale, side bend to your left. So just a gentle stretch on the exhale. Keep your hips level on the ground. Don't go over too far. Inhale, come up. Exhale, go to your right. Inhale, back to center. We'll keep doing that 2 more times each side. And again, keep your hips level on the mat. It's not about how far you stretch. It's just about getting the stretch. So inhale. Exhale to the left. Inhale back up. And exhale to the right. Inhale up. Last time each side. Exhale. Inhale up. And exhale to the right. Now we're going to inhale back up, and then we're going to exhale and very gently twist to the left. You do not have to go far at all. Inhale and twist to the right. Being careful of how we bend our spine, that we're not moving our hips, that we're staying steady. Inhale. Exhale to the left. Inhale again. And exhale to the right. Inhale. And exhale to the left. Inhale. Exhale to the right. Let's come to center on our inhale. Exhale, arms come down. One last shoulder stretch. I'm going to turn to the side so you can see better, but feel free to stay exactly how you are. We're going to take the strap behind us. And so like this, we're going to straighten our elbows, extend our arms back. And so on the inhale, we're going to lift up. Again, you don't have to go very far, and unless you're hyperflexible, you probably can't go too far. So we're going to keep a straight back. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, come down. Inhale, lift up. Exhale. Last one. Inhale. Exhale, come down. And then let's end with a little shrug and shoulder circles. 3 one direction, going up to our ears, and then reverse directions. There we go. Shake out any lingering tension. We're done with that tension for now. And you can just set your strap aside. We're not going to need it or read it for the rest of the practice. Okay, so let's get started with our first pose. So we're going to do just a really gentle spinal twist. It's really great for our internal organs. So it's a gentle belly down over the bolster twist. And so to get into it, we're going to go ahead and let's start with our right hip. We're going to bring our right hip up to our bolster, which is going lengthwise. And we're going to find a way that is comfortable for our legs to fold over. Some of you might have your legs straighter, some have them more curved up. It doesn't matter. Just find what's going to be nice and easy and comfortable to you. So once you find that, we're going to go ahead and then gently turn to face the bolster and then come on down. And it doesn't matter which way you twist, whatever is most comfortable and accessible to your neck right now is going to be just perfect. So as we breathe here, we're going to find some space in our upper back. So notice if your shoulders are hunching up towards your ears. Let's go ahead and bring them back a little bit. And we're going to focus on our low belly breathing. I know that we're kind of compressed here in our abdomen, but by doing a nice low belly diaphragm breath, we're giving those, think of the internal organs getting a nice gentle massage. It's really great for digestion, really great for energy and relaxation. So the only thing you need to focus on in this pose is breathing. And if you want to quiet your mind, a great way, it might sound boring, but it works. It's effective for me when my mind is chatty, is just say, I'm breathing in, I'm breathing out. Let's try that. I'm breathing in, I'm breathing out. And that's one easy way to get your mind to focus on something else, especially if you're just really tired of whatever your mind is focusing on. It happens sometimes. So just breathe and focus on creating space and energy in that abdomen. Deepen your breath. And when ready, gently slide your palms back and very slowly press yourself up. We take our transitions very, very slowly, especially in restorative yoga. because again, we're engaging the parasympathetic nervous system. So it's very important not to move too fast, to get up too much, because we really want to keep that system nice and calm. So let's go ahead and move to the next side. So you can come to a tabletop to transition over, and then we're going to go ahead and bring our left hip up against the bolster. And just like with the other side, we're going to find which way we want our legs to lay and be comfortable. So whatever that looks like for you is perfectly fine. And then when ready, we're going to turn to our comfort level to face the bolster, and then we're going to fold on down. Again, turning which way feels good for our neck. We want comfort, not strain. So it might be different for one side. It might be different each day that you practice. Either way, it's perfectly fine. Just go with what's comfortable to you on any given day. And you may notice I prefer to close my eyes in almost all sort of poses to really channel that focus on turning inward to myself. And it's really nice to do. It really helps just again focus and bring attention to your mind. But if you don't want to go there, to your body, because that's what we're trying to do. Really deepen that intuitive connection to your own body's needs and how you're feeling, and directing our breath to any places of tension, imagining that we can send our inhale to wherever is feeling tight or painful, even if it's not the area that we're stretching at the moment. So you can always think, another nice saying to help focus the mind is, I'm inhaling and expanding. I am exhaling and letting go. You can imagine that wherever you're sending your energy, your release of tension, you just think, I'm inhaling and expanding. I'm exhaling and letting go. Deepen your breath. And when ready, again, let's gently slide our palms back, and very slowly and intentionally press ourselves on up. We're going to go ahead and just turn ourselves over, and we're going to take the bolster and we're going to turn it horizontally for supported bridge pose. So you're going to want to place it, not quite halfway down your mat, just maybe a little beyond. We're just going to end up placing our low back and our tailbone here. And so if you're familiar with bridge pose from other yoga practices, It's a really great pose for releasing your back when you do it supported on the bolster. It's really good for your sacroiliac joint, low back tension and pain. This is just really a great pose to do, really at the end of any day, especially if you've been sitting. So to come into it, you can just go ahead and sit on your bolster and find where you're supported with your tailbone and your low back. You don't want to go too far up your back. You'll notice when you start to slowly release down what is going to feel right for you, because you want to feel supported, but you don't want any compression on the low back. You don't want any pain. You don't want any discomfort. So once you're there, then go ahead and just shrug your shoulder blades back, down away from your ears. We always want to keep the neck long. And your arms can just be out to your sides, palm facing upward. And just start to settle into this supported bridge pose. Our abdomen's no longer compressed, so we can really do some nice deep belly breaths here and focus on release. We're doing, a very gentle inversion as well. And again, really focus on release and space around that pelvic joint, an area that can get so tight and compact during our days, especially if we're driving or sitting a lot. So just doing a simple relaxing release like this is great for body and mind. Notice if you're gathering any tension in your face, your forehead, your jaw, around your eyes. And go ahead and see if you can soften around there. Release them just a little bit. Close down your eyes and enjoy surrendering into this pose. Deepen your breath. Inhale deep. Release and exhale, seeing if you can squeeze out every last bit of breath from your lower diaphragm. Really have a full exhale. Go ahead and flip your palms to face down. Press into your heels. And we're going to lift our hips up just a few inches to move our bolster out from under us. And then slowly exhale, lower down one vertebra at a time. Go ahead and roll over to one side. And then gently press yourself on up. So our next pose is going to be a supported pigeon pose, a really great hip stretch. So we're going to go ahead and bring our bolster back to face lengthwise. And then we're going to come to a tabletop position. And in our tabletop position, we're going to go ahead and take our right knee and bring it close to our right wrist and close to the edge of the bolster. And you might need to move your bolster up a bit, adjust where it is on the mat. And we're going to head and wiggle walk, as a friend of mine would say, our right shin. And there's a couple angles that you can have here for pigeon if you're unfamiliar. So you can come all the way to have your shin parallel to the front of the mat. That's the most full expression of the pose, but you don't have to get the stretch there. Remember, we're all about relaxing, and we're looking at about a 3 out of 10 on the sensation scale. So you can have it anywhere in between. You can bring it closer to your left hip and anywhere in between. So kind of play around with what's going to work for you. And if you have a blanket handy, we're going to go ahead and use that to pad our right hip. Almost everyone needs some extra support in pigeon pose because we want to keep our hips level and square to the front of the mat. We don't want to be teetering or tottering on one side or another. So go ahead and just preemptively fold up a blanket to what you need and place it underneath that right hip. Find the angle that works for coming down into the pose and fold down over the bolster. And it doesn't matter which way you turn your head, whatever is going to be more accessible and easy for you in this pose. So for me, I'm going to turn my head to the right because that feels good to me. So you might be noticing sensation in this pose. So use the time right now to get comfortable. Do you need another fold in the blanket? It's fine to get up and kind of adjust to what you need before settling into the pose. So honor yourself right now, finding what you need, and then making sure that your hips are level, that you feel pretty even, and that you're facing the front of the mat. Once you've found that, we're going to do a check on any tension in our body. So go ahead and bring your shoulders back if they're too close to your ears. And resolve to find stillness. Once we settle into a restorative pose, it's really beneficial to stay as still as possible. By all means, adjust if you need some comfort, because that's what it's all about. But the more that we can sit maybe with a little bit of discomfort, the more that we can sit with our mind if that's what's causing us discomfort, the more beneficial it will be. So in this pose, a lot of times if we're breathing into tense areas in our hips, we can send that tension elsewhere if we have a closed mouth, especially into our jaw and face. So I like to inhale through the nose and exhale gently through slightly open lips, just to allow that tension to really be released from the body and not just move somewhere else. So on your inhale, focus on that right hip, that entire hip joint, sending in energy. You can visualize light, whatever feels good to you. So just I breathe in and expand. Exhale through the mouth. I expand and release. Deepen your breath, taking one big last inhale into that right hip socket. Exhale out your mouth. Exhale fully, every last bit of breath out. Slide your palms back, gently and slowly. Press your way back up. Come to tabletop and do any intuitive stretches in that right leg and right hip to bring a little sensation, circulation back into that, whatever feels good to you. And then I'm going to move my blanket over to the side to get ready for the next side. And we're going to go ahead and bring our left knee towards our left wrist. And again, wiggle walk that left shin to either be parallel to the front of the mat, or you can bring it closer to the right hip, depending on what's accessible to you. And keep in mind that it's very normal and expected for one side to feel differently than the other. We don't want to judge. We just want to accept what is. So you might need different props for this side than the previous side. So just honor what your body's needing right now. But make sure you go ahead and pad under that left hip. Make sure that you are level with your hips. And then when ready, inhale, exhale, and fold over the bolster. Coming to turn your head in whatever direction feels good to you right now. Creating space in our neck and length. Close down your eyes. And sometimes certain poses, or when we work on our bodies and stretch and relax, there can be a release of emotions. Sometimes we cry even, and that's perfectly normal. And my suggestion to you is just to let whatever emotion come and just be expressed. If you want to cry, you don't have to figure out why, just let it happen. Let any release that your body wants to do happen. You know, maybe odd thoughts or images come to mind. That's okay too. Just whatever happens is fine. It's just we observe and let it be, and we don't always have to figure it out or try to overanalyze. We're doing deep work in our bodies here, and our minds also benefit. And if you find discomfort in your mind at times, I encourage you to stick with the practice. It gets a bit easier, but it's not just about always calming the mind. Sometimes it doesn't happen that way. But by just doing these poses, our body is already relaxing. We don't have to do anything else. So know that you're getting benefits from this practice, even if you feel distracted. So we'll inhale into our left hip socket, bringing release, energy and love, positive vibes into that area, and exhaling fully. I inhale and expand. I exhale and release. Deepen your breath. Bring in one last deep, big inhale into that left hip socket. Exhale out the mouth, fully getting that last bit of breath out. Slide our palms gently back. Press slowly on up. And just like we did with that right side, we're going to stretch, do hip circles, whatever we need to do to release that left hip. When that feels complete, let's go ahead and set up for our next pose, which is supported bound angle. So have your blankets handy, and we're going to take our 2 blocks. So to set this up, we're going to bring one block to its highest level towards the top of the mat in the center, and then the second block is go on the medium height. So pretty close next to that first block. And then we're going to take our bolster, prop it up against those blocks, and that feels pretty sturdy. You might have to adjust a little bit, but that should hold pretty well. If you don't have any blocks or block substitutes at all, you can either have the blocks on a lower level or have the bolster completely on the ground. You might need to pad with some pillows and cushions depending on your flexibility to help raise yourself up a little bit, because going flat against the bolster on the ground is a pretty deep and full expression of the pose that you might not be wanting to do. So to do this pose, you might want to have blankets on both sides of the mat, extra cushions, and maybe even a blanket to cover yourself up with. If you're feeling pretty stressed today, I recommend covering up with a blanket, even if you're not cold, because it really helps reduce the activity of the nervous system and has a really nice calming effect on the nervous system. So I do recommend that if you're coming out pretty stressed today. So to come into the pose, we're going to turn around and we're going to have our backs flush up against the bolster. And then we're going to bring the soles of our feet together. You might recognize this as cobbler's pose or butterfly pose if you've done other types of yoga. And the closer your heels are towards your hips, the more deep the stretch is going to be. So you can go kind of any range that feels good to you today. Remember, we're not looking for a ton of sensation, and that's where the blankets or a cushion can come into handy. If you don't want your knees going all the way to the ground, or you find it more comfortable, you can pad your knees with the blankets. So find what's going to be comfortable for you. We're going to hold this pose for a little bit longer. So today, I think I'm just going to I need the stretch a bit more. So I'm going to have the blankets removed for me, but do what works for you. Then we're going to just come back down and we're going to test the integrity of the bolster so it holds pretty well. And our palms are going to be face up in a receiving pose, a nice, passive, receiving good energy pose. Alternatively, you could have your hands in your lap, on your thighs, whatever's going to feel good. So make any last adjustments as you lie back in the pose, bringing a blanket close, covering yourself a blanket, or placing something underneath your knees or hips. Now is the time to adjust before settling in, finding our stillness and our relaxation, noticing if we're holding any tension in our face, our eyes, our jaw, noticing if we're compressed between our chin and our chest. Are we closed off in this area? Do we need to elongate more? We have the full expanse of our breath and our abdominal cavity in this pose. So you can always think of sending your breath wherever it needs to go, wherever that tension might be that you want to release. Let your breath guide you there. deepen your breath, taking in a full, deep breath from your diaphragm. Exhale out completely, squeezing out every last bit of breath. Turn your palms over. Gently press yourself up. And you might need to give your legs a little assist, like closing a book. Bring them together. Just extend them out. You can shake them out a little bit. Whatever feels good. And we're going to come into our last pose before Shavasana today. And that's going to be a supported child's pose. So we're going to come over to tabletop. And I'll give you two options. So you can lower the level of your blocks. So the top one would go to medium level. And then the lowest level for the second block. And you can come down the child's pose like this. If that feels good to you. Or else you can move the blocks aside and come fully down just to the bolster on the ground. So you can either take a wide-legged child's pose, so toes together, knees apart towards the edges of your mat, or you can make it a bit more restorative by bringing the knees closer together. So find what works for you. And you can choose to place a blanket under your hips if you find that your hips don't all the way reach your heels or that's more comfortable to you. So make it your own pose. Come down. Turn your head either direction. Breathe and settle into the pose. Move your shoulders back away from your ears, giving your neck some length and some much needed space. Breathe into your lower back here, your kidneys and adrenal glands. I've heard as the battery pack of your body, lots of energy stored in there. So you can imagine on your breath in that you're just breathing in and charging up those battery packs. Exhale, releasing any stagnant energy. Deepen your breath. Breathe one last deep exhale to the low back. Exhale out fully. Slide your palms back. Press yourself slowly back up. Now, to get ready for Shavasana, our final resting pose, you have a couple options. You can always have a blanket at the top of the mat to act as a headrest or a little pillow. I always like to keep the bolster under my knees. I find it's most comfortable for my back, so that's another option you can bring. It can also be nice to use an eye mask if you really want to block out light and find optimal relaxation. And then the last bit is I always like to use a blanket, especially in Shavasana. Our body temperature lowers with restorative yoga, so it's nice to keep that warmth, and also it's very soothing, as I mentioned before, to the nervous system to have some sort of blanket covering you really at any time during restorative yoga practice. So once you're ready, you can come all the way down onto your back. And you won't be able to see my arms, but I'm going to have my arms out to my sides, palms facing up. So now I'm going to place them under the blanket, but that's the position they're going to be in. Legs are a comfortable distance apart, whatever that is for you. Close down your eyes. Shrug your shoulders up and then down away from your ears. And just notice, take stock of your body and mind and see what's changed since when you first came to practice today. You don't need everything to be fixed, of course. But notice if there's any tension lingering, especially in your face, your chest, your abdomen, your hips and low back, knees, calves, ankles and feet. See what you can release. You're totally supported by the ground. There's nothing else for you to do. And you can rest. If practice was challenging for you today, this is your chance in Shavasana for your body and mind and soul to integrate what we practiced, what you learned today, whether you're aware of it consciously or not. And so we just allow, which is sometimes so hard to do, but gets better with practice. Just allowing ourselves to rest, allowing ourselves to receive, allowing ourselves to integrate with our body's natural intelligence that doesn't always need interference or analysis from us. Find a natural breath that works for you. If you want to do a prescribed or scripted breath, it's always helpful to have your exhale longer than your inhale. That engages our parasympathetic system, and as I say, it's physically impossible to be stressed when your exhale is longer than your inhale. So you might want to inhale for 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And again, you can inhale for 4, exhale for 6. You can always increase the length by inhaling for 4, exhaling for 8. Whatever feels right for your body and doesn't cause too much strain on your lungs or your breath. We don't want to create any extra tension We want it to be flowing, easy, and natural. So you could even inhale for 3, exhale for 5. Find your pacing if that's what you want to do. Otherwise, enjoy these few moments of stillness and silence together. You can pause the video and stay in Shavasana for as long as you like. If you're ready to be guided out, start by keeping your eyes closed and deepening your breath. Begin to wiggle your fingers and toes, roll your ankles and your wrists. It might feel good to stretch your arms overhead and your feet out. Make yourself really long. Roll over to your left side. Stay there for a moment. And gently press yourself back up, keeping your eyes closed. Come to an easy seat. Bring your palms together in front of your heart. We'll end our practice today with one breath together. Inhale. Exhale. You can bow to yourself at heart center. Namaste. Thank you so much for your time today, your dedication to self-care, and for sharing your practice with me. I'm truly honored. And I hope to see you in a future video. And if you haven't already, please do subscribe to my channel to support free yoga online. Thank you.